Okay, welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And didn't have a show last week, but last week we had an episode of Brandon Falls in this edition, part nine. I think it was the Air Force Academy. Your thoughts, and before you give your thoughts, there was increasing speculation of a possible October surprise, him handing it to Canelo or someone else coming in. Your thoughts?
Yeah, there is increasing thought that he is not going to be able to complete the campaign. He
What
tripped.
is your
Oh,
view on that?
I I don't think he should be running now.
I know
This,
that. I know
you
he
know,
shouldn't, but is he? Okay, I'll start it off.
uh,
I do not think he's increasingly becoming more feeble and more senile. I believe he will not be capable. This is 2 years away. No way in hell.
yeah, I don't think he'll be capable of completing it, but that doesn't mean he's not going to, because the Democrats have to convince him that he cannot run. And I don't think they can do it. I think he believes that he is perfectly capable.
Okay, let me just throw out this scenario. The Dems become increasingly aware, cognizant of the fact that he is not going to be able to pull this off. This is not COVID. So they do things like adjust the formats, like allow for debates, so on and so forth. I see that very likely.
If they do that, that plays right into the hands of RFK Jr., which, quite frankly, is good for the country
Oh, God,
because
yes.
RFK Jr. will make a much better president than Joe Biden has.
Or Donald Trump.
Or Donald Trump. Yes, he's much more centrist. He can actually bring people together. Moderate Democrats and independents
And a very
will support
populist
him.
message, by the way. A
Yes,
populist message without the Trump insanity. How does that sound?
exactly.
Very good. Great minds think alike. And he's increasingly giving the Democrats jitters. He's starting to really resonate. If they don't F him over with New Hampshire, he could likely pull out a 1968 McCarthy surprise a la LBJ and really turn things on their head. Your thoughts?
He really can. At this point, forget the national polls. If you look at the state by state polls, RFK is going to win the early primaries. He is
Well, shed
going.
some more. No, that's worth shedding some more light on because nationally he's increasing. He's about at 25%, which is quite impressive. But
It is,
elaborate on what you've just
it
said.
is
That's excellent.
impressive, but right now it looks like he is going to beat Biden in Iowa. He's going to beat Biden in New Hampshire. The DNC is trying to make South Carolina the first primary, but they don't really have the ability to do that. And in fact, it is state law in New Hampshire that their primary is the first in the nation. So Biden is going to be beaten in the early primaries. And I think that's going to give Democrats the go ahead, the same way we've been talking about how Republicans need the go ahead to leave Trump and go to another candidate. This is going to give Democrats the go ahead to leave Biden behind.
100% agree with that. No question about it. Um, and I think they would all breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, he's getting to be like it's comical. Like it's actually like pratfalls at this point. He was also at an international. I think it was a meeting with Great Britain, and he just looked like a moron because of the press was asking him questions. He just did that goofy smile, and basically, as the press are being escorted, you can't do that forever.
No, and if you actually read the foreign press, the Democrats used to yell that, oh, Trump was an international embarrassment. No, if you read the international press, they think Biden is a buffoon. They were afraid of what Trump was going to do, but they had respect for him. Biden, no such thing.
And speaking of the Biden RFK race, Jack Dorsey from Twitter, ex Twitter, founder of Twitter, just endorsed RFK Jr. I think
Yeah, and
that's pretty important. That's not for
It
nothing.
it it is important, and it shows how the left wing of the party is losing power. Because I heard comments from a couple of left wingers saying, well, RFK isn't really a Democrat because he's hanging out on Twitter Spaces with Jack Dorsey and he's talking with Tulsi Gabbard. Those aren't Democrats. Well, guess what? Those are JFK Democrats.
And what a powerful ticket that could possibly be, RFK Jr. and Gabbard.
Well, I don't know that Gabbard will run as a Democrat,
No, I'm saying as vice
but
president.
yeah, but I don't know that she would join a Democratic ticket.
Okay.
I don't know who he will choose for a vice president. I would love to see Tulsi Gabbard because, quite frankly, an RFK Gabbard ticket would be a very strong signal that the party is leaving the radical left behind.
I think
And
that would be a
they
tremendous
should.
watershed moment. Yes.
They really should because the radical left does not identify as Democrats. And this is what has always confused me. They will call themselves democratic socialists. They call themselves so independent socialists and then just join the Democratic Party when it comes time for the presidential election.
I think Bernie Sanders was the Trojan horse that effed over the Democratic Party. They let him have a voice. His voice got increasingly louder, and he appealed to young people, those of them that didn't have jobs. And now they be careful what you wish for. He is
Right.
the gift that keeps on giving.
And they were depending on the radical left to bring in those young voters, specifically millennials. Well, now millennials are not so young. And just as the Democrats are seeing African Americans and Hispanic Americans move to the right, millennials are now moving to the right.
That is a very interesting concept. Another interesting potential situation is Manchin not in several interviews uh, not walking away or running away from a third party with the independent. I forgot what it's called. Is trying to court him. I'm not. I've kind of had it with him. I think he's one big bullshitter. I think he's doing this just to patch over his screw ups and his basically um, not doing disfavor to his own constituency. I don't think he's a serious or would be a serious candidate, and I don't think he's seriously considering a third party vie. I think it's part of his rehabilitation campaign.
I actually think he is seriously considering a third party. He's talking to the folks over at No Labels.
That's it. No
But
labels. Yes.
I think what it is that he does not believe that he can beat the former governor of West Virginia in an
And he will be
election.
destroyed. How does that sound?
Yes, as a
But by
third
the way, you should be destroyed just on with nothing else. Just being played by Chucky Schumer, you should basically resign
yes, but
because
if
moron
he
see as
runs
moron does.
if Joe Manchin runs as a no labels candidate, he is going to pull moderate and centrist Democrats who don't want to vote for a Republican. Well, that is basically going to cut off the Democrats and give the race to the Republicans. So I'm all for him running as a third party. This is exactly what the Democrats are afraid of. They believe that No Labels is trying to give the election to the Republicans, which is not the case. They actually want to move the Democratic Party closer to the center. But the only way to do that at this point is to put up third party candidates who will unite moderate Democrats and separate them from the left. And
Okay,
that may very well pave the way for the Republicans to win, but it's going to teach the Democrats that they cannot rely on the left.
I think that lesson's becoming increasingly clearer. Hopefully, it will become clear enough then for them to all see that. Um, now, we talked about Bernie, the one of the best all-time shitheads out there. Another great all-time shithead is Comey. He was in an interview and basically said the only one that is virtuous enough to run and get his vote is Biden in 2024. Many think that he's scared shitless of Trump coming back and basically looking under his carpet.
I believe that is the case. If the Republicans take both houses, if the Republicans take the White House, everything that Comey did, every dirty trick is going to come out. They're not going to stop the investigations. They've already uncovered that the FBI has been severely weaponized, and Comey, for the most part, is the guy that participated in that. They are going to find out everything he did, and sure, he's afraid of that.
Yes, and he actually looks a lot older than he did 4 or 5 years ago. He looks like shit. I don't feel sorry for him, but I think it's funny. So he's worrying, is my point.
Absolutely, he knows that he had his bag of dirty tricks. The Durham investigation did show that the FBI was weaponized against Trump even before Trump ever took office, before he was elected. And that all falls under Comey.
And I also doesn't think it doesn't shine exactly a positive light under Barack Obama, but I think history will show increasingly that he was also a scumbag.
Yeah,
Just my humble opinion.
Obama very clearly weaponized government agencies. We know he weaponized the FBI. We know he weaponized the IRS. We know he weaponized the NSA. So I mean, these are things that were known at the time because he was caught. They were caught hacking Angela Merkel's phone. They were caught going after the Associated Press's phone records to silence the press. They were caught with Fast and Furious. And yet there is still this massive online campaign to convince the American voter that there were no scandals while Obama was in
And
office.
I have a nice bridge to sell you. But speaking of the FBI, there's a possibility of the current director being slapped with a contempt of Congress. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's not going to be slapped with any such charge. Congress has already said he is in contempt of Congress. But the way the process works is that once the Congress says, yes, this person is in contempt of Congress, it's up to the Department of Justice whether or not to
All
prosecute.
right, there we go. Okay, end of
Guess
story.
what?
You got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
guess
Good.
what? The DOJ's not prosecuting him.
There you go. Check, please. Still focusing on the political landscape, we have Tim Scott appearing on the View, highly partisan. And by the way, what would you predict? Oh, I have a question for you. What is a higher intelligence level, Jerry Springer viewers or the View?
That's tough.
I think it's
I'm gonna
any
go
given
with
day.
Springer. I'm gonna go with
I
Springer's
really would
view.
too, because you might have some pot smoking college kids wanting a good laugh. Yeah, the views about maybe in the 70, 75% or 75 IQ points. But Tim Scott did hold his own. Your thoughts? I thought it was a wise move going on the View.
Not only did he hold his
He
own, and
kicked ass.
I find it absolutely hysterical that the View scheduled his appearance for when Joy Behar was not on the show because I think they knew he was going to make her look like a jackass.
Well, she is a
But
jackass.
but he came on with an uplifting, positive message. How it's not about only the exceptions that can succeed. It's about how we have to make it possible for everybody to
Now, only
succeed.
the exceptions to succeed. Isn't that liberal, um, basically elitism in the form of racism? If you think that blacks can only succeed with the help of the government, I think it's on its face racism.
It is absolutely racist. They are saying you cannot succeed because you are black or because you are Hispanic, but don't worry, we are here to
We're
help
here to
you.
help you. Yes, and they've done a lot of help since 1964, 65 with the Great Society. If you were going to destroy a group of people, you could not have done a better job. Am I not correct, sir?
You are correct. And this is the problem with liberal policies. I will never argue that liberals mean well. They want to positively change the country, but they have no idea how to do it. They work with these crackpot theories that they're the ones that can help. Meanwhile, instead of focusing on things that really help, like education, like jobs,
Yeah, but it,
they
then it would enable them to leave the reservation. I'm not
exactly.
so sure they have such high, lofty goals. I think behind it all, they enjoy being having a captive audience and having blacks basically relegated to second class citizens, so they can be there for them to help, like they've done
Absolutely.
over the last 65 years.
Right. They believe that the Democrats are there to help. Now, of course, historically, the Democrats voted against the civil rights movement, the Civil Rights Act. They voted against releasing the slaves. The Democrats have been the party of racism throughout their history. And now they're trying to make this big shift. Oh, no, we're not racist. We're here to help. No, you're not.
Yeah, I think it just morphed itself into intellectual racism. There you go. A term coined by Carnivore Bites. There you go. Now, we also have in the political realm, we have Chris Christie and Pence announcing. Pence, I don't think that's kind of a non issue. Chris Christie, I think it is a huge issue because, or news event, because I think he's going to be a Trump attacker. He hates Trump for various reasons, and he's always been an attacker anyway. I think it's going to be a thorn, at least while he's around, on Trump's side. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Christie's actually going to stick around longer than most people think. Not that I think he has a chance to win,
Hmm.
but I think he's going to stick around just to be a thorn in Trump's side. And I think that is a key factor for both the Republican primary and for Tim Scott. Because while Chris Christie is going after Trump and showcasing every horrible aspect of the Trump presidency, Tim Scott, on the other hand, is out there with an uplifting message, with a positive message. So he doesn't have to go negative as long as Christie's doing it.
Yes.
DeSantis is going to benefit from this as well because this DeSantis voters have already seen Trump going after him. And ironically, Trump's attacks on DeSantis stopped when DeSantis actually joined the race. There are Trump supported super PACs that are still going after him, but Trump himself has dialed it back. I think Trump is starting to realize that what worked for him in 2016 is going to backfire this time.
Didn't we say that on Carnivore?
We did. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important that Christie keeps up these attacks. Again, I don't think it's a winning strategy for him, but I think he's the linebacker. He's clearing the Trump supporters out of the way so that more qualified and candidates that can actually win independent and moderate Democrats can
Excellent
actually
analysis. I agree
take
100%.
the convention.
He's the other's wingman, if you will.
Yes.
Um, Speaking of once Trump loyalists that have fallen off that category or that pedestal, and that is Barr now predicts on CBS Good Morning, I believe, that Trump will be handed an indictment from Mar-a-Lago. Your thoughts? And what does that mean, if anything?
It doesn't surprise me. It won't surprise me if he's indicted. I think the DOJ is actually keeping a lot of balls in the air on this one because if they indict Trump and don't indict Biden, because it's basically the same, the same crime, I think they're going to make it very clear that there are two systems of justice in this country.
Do you think Trump
Uh,
has the brains and the tactical ability to leverage that? Because I think it is
I
the takeaway from that
I
if he
I
uses
don't
it correctly.
I
He'll
don't
he'll
think
screw it up probably.
yeah, I don't think he does have the ability to
No,
take
he does not.
advantage of that. I don't think he can get out of the way of his own ego. And I think Garland is actually politically astute enough to not indict Trump on the charge of the documents, but indict him on obstructing justice, which is what they impeached him, tried to impeach him on, obstructing justice. And he may have a case. Remember, we've said this over and over again. You can indict a ham sandwich. It doesn't mean there's actually a crime.
Here's where I think that really do believe, unlike the Mar-a-Lago raid, I think this will have an effect on the primaries. I think it's how he handles it, which won't be good. Uh, I think people are. It'll go to the whole thing of people looking for like a Scott, a fresh approach. It's. I think it's going to have a negative impact on Trump.
I think it will, but I think it will work in Mike Pence's favor because Pence can now go forward and say, look, I was there for all of these policies. We had record low unemployment for minorities, which Biden does not have. We had energy independence. This was an administration I was active in. And yet, I don't have the baggage. Nobody is indicting me. The Justice Department cleared me of all charges.
It'll be
So
interesting.
I
I think he was a good, loyal vice president. I think he's a sound candidate. I think that he does have a Trump hangover. Not
there
his fault, but
no
guilt by association.
there is a Trump hangover. I think if Pence works it right, the key to overcoming that is the fact that he stood up to Trump on January 6th for the rule of law.
I like that.
And
Good call.
I
Good call.
that will work in his favor, but I think he can win over the Trump loyalists because based on policy. If he makes it not about personality, because Trump is all about personality, you'll notice Trump had some very positive policies, and yet he has not been talking about them in this campaign.
It'll be interesting. I think you have a very good analysis. If Pence um, positions himself as Trump without Trump, that could have some legs. Um, Now, looking also, you talk about energy independence. Saudi is looking, suggested that they're going to look at cutbacks for the summer. Again, we gave them that opportunity, or at least Biden did. Isn't it just another way of them saying "F you, Biden"? They hate the son of a bitch.
Yes, it is. The Saudis have said they are going to be dropping production by 1 million barrels a day. And they've stated that the reason they're doing this is to raise oil prices. Remember, the Saudi economy is very dependent on oil prices. So they are doing this to raise those prices and make more money. Now, they wouldn't be in a position to do this had Biden not stifled American drilling. Because and there have been statements by the American oil industry who have said we can get back into drilling if Biden gets out of the way. We can fix this problem. But the Biden administration does not want America drilling for oil, which, by the way, from an environmental
It's the
standpoint, is the
cleanest.
dumbest move he could have made. We have the cleanest natural gas in the world. We have the cleanest oil in the world. People are not shifting over to solar and wind from oil. They're switching over from American oil to foreign oil and doing more damage to the environment.
Not that Biden's actually cognizant of that, but that's another issue we've already addressed. Getting shifting a little bit to the business world, we see that the ad agency behind the Bud Light disaster is now in wholesale panic. Surprise, surprise, Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was the dumbest campaign they could have come up with. Let's pick somebody in the middle of March Madness, which is a big beer event. Pick somebody to spotlight that has no idea about basketball, no idea about March Madness, doesn't drink beer, obviously doesn't use the product, and let's highlight that. Let's basically just throw in the face to all of our consumers that we don't give a damn about them.
And that is actually 100% true. And it's also true at Target, losing 14 billion dollars because they're at the country club drinking Chardonnay and they have no idea what the F is
No,
going on. Am I not just
Target
woke corporatism?
Target has a much bigger problem because it has come out. It's not just about pushing a trans agenda.
No, it's about
They
Mount
have
Rushmore.
they have been giving money to defund the police organizations. They
Beautiful.
have been given money to anti Semitic organizations
Jesus.
trying to censure Israel. So these folks, the folks at Target, have gone over the deep end with their woke agenda against Jews, against the police. This is not a winning strategy right now. And they have lost $14 billion in market cap and falling. And as
Good.
more of this comes out, they are going to lose more.
And do you
You
know they're
cannot,
also been associated with funding groups looking to dismantle Mount Rushmore? I mean, who the hell are these people in charge?
I,
Like, what are you
I don't,
smoking?
yeah, I don't know. Target has been in trouble for a
I thought that
long
was
time.
Middle America. They're from Minnesota. I mean, well, that's crazy enough anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but Target has been in has had problems for a long time. I actually stopped shopping at Target not because of any of this political stuff. I stopped going there before all of this hit because they couldn't keep employees, and I would walk in and go, what I need is not worth standing on on the one cashier's line they have open, and I would just walk out. They saw sales drop from that. They did not handle coming out of COVID well, and maybe they thought backing these political causes was going to endear them to consumers, which has severely backfired.
Well, I hope their demise accelerates, and yes, maybe the next step is a burning book rally for their anti-Semitism. There you go. And then finally, in the business front, CNN cut loose their seat in less than a year. Your thoughts? Less than
Yeah,
a year.
I was.
Oh no, but let me just say one thing before you go with your analysis. We, I think, gave CNN too much street cred because we thought they had such a golden opportunity. Obviously, numbnuts couldn't see that, could he?
Well, no, it's actually the opposite. Chris Lecht, who is the CEO that was let go, did see the golden opportunity. He was then forced out by the radical left within CNN, who was trying to hold on to what CNN was. He
Wait.
was,
Was CNN would hold on to what? No ratings? I'm
yeah,
kidding. There you go.
they they wanted CNN to remain as an activist group rather than journalists. This and stories have already come out. There was a hatchet job in the Atlantic, which was the straw that broke the camel's back for the Warner Brothers CEO that had to let him go. But CNN's on air personalities, their behind the scenes personalities, they came out on record saying, oh, they don't like what he's doing. They want to be activists. And Chris, like, was doing the right thing in trying to turn CNN back into a journalistic tool. And the liberal left and the radical activists won this round.
Well, they won the round and won the battle, but they're going to lose the war because their primetime lineup. I'd rather watch, for those people that have been in New York, the Yule Log is more interesting than Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, there are questions as to whether Licht was the right person for this job. If the Warner Brothers Discovery management team decides that that was the direction they want to go in, maybe they can find somebody more effective to do it. But you and I have said this over and over again. CNN needs to do a clean sweep. They need to fire everybody. Now, something to keep in mind is that one of the people that is now in charge is I'm forgetting his name, but he is the new chief operating officer, and he has only been there a couple of weeks. So we don't know if he's indoctrinated into this or if he's going to keep trying to make CNN what it was in its heyday.
We will keep an eye on that very interesting scenario and situation. And it's good to have you back, Dr. Lopkin. That concludes this edition of Carnivore Bites. And unlike CNN, we seem to be headed in the right direction, correct?
We are, and you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at the Carnivore Radio website, xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and thank our listeners. See you
We'll,
next week.
we'll see you next time.